My name's Mark, and you're listening to Headstraight. Hello, you lot, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most uncomfortable experiences there is. What happens when you get it wrong publicly? Now, this is when you mess up and other people see it. Not privately, not quietly, but publicly. A comment that didn't land, a reaction that maybe went a bit too far, a decision that backfired, or a moment where you know that you could have handled it better. And as soon as it happens, your body goes into meltdown. Your face gets hot, your chest tightens, your brain starts shouting things like, "Everyone saw that! I've ruined my reputation. They're all judging me now." So in the moment, what do most humans do? Well, you either start over-explaining, you over-apologise, you disappear, or turn defensive. None of which actually helps in the moment. Now, this is the truth that most people never get to hear. Mistakes don't destroy credibility, but avoiding it, yeah, that does. What most people remember isn't that you messed up, but it's what you did afterwards. Did you own it? Did you stay grounded? Did you repair cleanly, or did you spiral? This episode isn't about becoming flawless or fearless. It's about learning how to handle being seen as human without collapsing into shame or trying to save face. Because if you want to live with impact, mistakes aren't a possibility. They're actually part of the deal. So let's talk about what actually matters when you get it wrong and how to come back from it without destroying yourself. Now, there's a reason public mistakes feel so brutal. It's not about embarrassment. It's shame. Shame isn't about what you did. It's about what your brain told you that the mistake means about you. The moment other people see you mess up, your nervous system jumps to conclusions. I'm exposed. I look incompetent. I've lost people's respect. And because humans are wired to belong, that threat feels massive. Your body reacts as if your safety's at risk. Heart racing, face burning, thoughts spiraling. So you try to escape the feeling as fast as possible. You apologise too much. You explain yourself in circles. You minimise what's happened. You joke it away, or you just disappear. Not because you don't care, but because your system is desperate to shut the feeling down. The problem is, shame doesn't disappear when you avoid it. It just goes underground. And from there, it starts driving behaviour in ways that actually damage trust, defensiveness, overcompensation, people-pleasing, and withdrawal. So the first thing to understand is this. Feeling shame after public mistakes is normal. But letting it run the show isn't helpful. This episode isn't about numbing that feeling or pretending that you don't care. It's about learning how to respond with accountability without turning one mistake into a character assassination. Because there's a massive difference between I messed up and I'm a mess up. One needs to repair, the other leads to spiralling. And that distinction changes everything. Now, when people mess up publicly, they often swing between two extremes. On the one side, there's defensiveness. Well, it wasn't that bad. Oh, people are just overreacting. Well, they misunderstood what I meant. And on the other side, there's self-punishment. I'm terrible. I've ruined everything. I should have known better than that. Neither of those is accountability. Accountability sits right in the middle. And it sounds like, I saw what happened there. I understand the impact. I take responsibility for my part in this. No excuses, no self-attacks. And this is the part that most people often miss. Beating yourself up doesn't make you accountable. It just keeps you stuck. Self-punishment feels productive because it looks like you're taking it seriously. But all it really does is center the mistake around your own pain. And that, ironically, pulls focus away from the people affected. Real accountability isn't loud. It's contained. It's grounded. It doesn't say, "Look how bad I feel." It says, "I understand what happened, and I'm willing to repair it." And that distinction matters, especially when other people are watching. Because people don't trust those who never mess up. They trust those who can hold themselves steady when they do. So, if you ever find yourself spiraling after a public mistake, there's a grounding question to ask yourself. But what does responsibility look like here? Because hating yourself doesn't fix anything. Responsibility is about repair, not punishment. That question alone can pull you out of shame and into repair. Which brings us onto something very practical. Because knowing you need to take responsibility is one thing. Knowing how to apologize cleanly without groveling or over-explaining, that's another. Now, when people mess up publicly, most apologies go wrong in one of two ways. They either become defensive, "I'm sorry if anyone was offended. That wasn't my intention." Or they become overloaded. Long explanations, emotional unloading, trying to prove that you're a good person. And neither of those actually repair anything. A clean apology is different. It's short, it's contained, and it focuses on impact, not intent. And here's the shape of it. First, name what happened, plainly, without softening it. "I spoke over you. I made a comment that crossed the line. I reacted too sharply." Second, acknowledge the impact. "That wasn't fair. I can see how that landed. That put you in an awkward position." Third, own your part. "That's on me." And then, and this part matters, just stop. No essay, no self-criticism, no emotional unloading. Because the apology isn't about relieving your discomfort. It's about repairing the moment. And here's something important. You don't apologize for existing. You apologize for the behavior. When you keep the apology clean, two things happen. The first thing is, people feel respected, not managed. And the second thing is, you keep your dignity intact. And even if the other person doesn't respond perfectly, even if they're distant or awkward, you've still done the responsible thing. You've repaired what was yours to repair. Which leads us nicely into the next step. Because sometimes an apology alone isn't enough. There's a conversation that needs to happen. Sometimes there's still tension in the air, something unresolved, a relationship that needs a bit more care. And that's where a repair conversation comes in. Not a rehash, not a defense, not a second apology tour, just a way of moving forward without reopening the wound. A repair conversation is simple in structure, even if it feels uncomfortable. It starts with this mindset. The goal is not to be understood. The goal is to restore trust. So instead of explaining yourself, you stay focused on three things. First, acknowledge again what mattered. I've been thinking about what happened, and I want to say again, that wasn't okay. Second, name what you're doing differently. I'm going to slow myself down next time. I'm being more careful about how I say things. And the third is leave space. Not forcing forgiveness, not demanding reassurance, just allowing the other person to respond in their own time. And here's the part people find hardest. You don't rush to make things feel normal again. Because repair isn't about comfort. It's about consistency. Trust rebuilds when people see the change, not when they hear the promise. Which brings us to the final piece of this episode. Because even when you've apologised cleanly, even when you've repaired properly, your nervous system might still be on edge. That doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that you're human. Because after a public mistake, your brain often wants to keep punishing you, even when the situation itself has settled. And this is where you consciously close the loop. You remind yourself, I acknowledged the mistake. I took responsibility. I repaired what I could. And that's the job done. You don't need to keep replaying it. You don't need to keep paying for it emotionally. So, when your mind drags you back into the moment, you gently interrupt it with this. I've already handled this responsibly. Not dismissing it, not minimizing it. Just recognizing that rumination isn't accountability. It's self-punishment wearing a really clever disguise. And you don't need to keep doing that. Because living with impact means accepting something important. You will mess up sometimes. People will see it. And it won't end you. What defines you isn't the mistake, it's the repair. So let me set you the challenge for this week. This week, I want you to repair one small thing. Not a dramatic apology, not a public confession, just one moment where you acknowledge, adjust, or correct, where you do it cleanly and calmly. And then notice what happens, not just in the relationship, but in how you feel about yourself afterwards. Now, in the next episode, we're going to flip the focus. We're going to take a look at how you can inspire people without trying to impress them, fix them, or look like you're trying too hard. How do you influence people without becoming cringe? So, are you ready for it? Of course you are.